dump proof on that. Cause
so where would you cut for when you put the wires? Where would I cut? Kind of over here, right? Somewhere.
Yeah. So you have the knob of the bone
right here in my hand.
And normally I'll use scissors or wire cutters, and you cut as close to the knob as possible.
Okay.
I kind of go in and nick it, because if you go over the whole bone and crunch down, it'll splinter.
Okay.
If you kind of nick it, then it'll.
Let me see if I can cut some of this meat off so I can see what you're saying here.
And that's important, because when you go to wire the bird on a flying bird, then, obviously if it's splintered and you lost an inch or two of it, now you might have some issues of, the wing being too close or too far from the body. And, you cut the knob, so you're technically knocking off like half an inch. And then in the body,
so the knob.
Because I got a body right here. So the body we have, this is where the knob is going into. So if you envision, if you leave the knob, the point I'm trying to make is if you leave the knob on there and you wire it in this, the wing is gonna stick too far out from the body, so it needs to be shortened a little bit. Yeah, so he's got the skin down there.
Okay, so this is the knob of the bone.
Normally I'll try to nick it over here where it's kind of thin and it spades out. So you can use the blue handle.
Some actual
Yeah.
With the
wire cutters.
Opening facing this way, or like that?
No, go from the other side.
Like this?
No, the other side of the bone, where it's kind of thin and there's that little protruding or spade part.
So now just
close to the end as you can get.
Okay.
Just kind of, yeah, there you go.
All right. So now you're just left with bone, and you just cut this meat off, right?
That's it. And then and just to add, if you have a broken bone, that's probably where it's going to be in these two.
Somewhere in here, right?
Yeah, I would say.
Let me see if I can cut the meat off.
That's a lot, man. People will say, "Oh, I was going to mount it," or but the wing was broken. If you just got one of them broke, it's fine, because obviously you have a reference when you go to wire it. It doesn't really matter. You can, if you have two, what's going to happen?
I have a broken one, so this is going to be a.
Oh, perfect.
Good,
yeah, so if you have two, you're going to lose everything past that, and then that's where you got to hope the other side isn't. That way you have a reference point of, where the bend is at, how long the bone is. Here with the break, the only problem you'll have is when you invert it occasionally, fleshing or mounting, just kind of that bone sticking into the skin and having to kind of move it.
So we have a break with this one right here.
Yeah.
Where normally it would be connected.
So on that one, you can snip some of it off if you want.
Some of this meat?
No, the bone, I'm saying when they go to wire it, because that's what it does. It tends to want to stick down and kind of poke the skin. And that can kind of create a lump in the wing when you go to mount it. But, for the most part, it's
slippery.
You still have the framework to what you're going to wire, so it's not as big of a deal. But that's good. We got a break, so it's still, that wasn't on the secondary. So say that break, there was the other bone, it would have been a little bit
up here.
We'll say the break was here, so when we go to break the secondaries, it would have made it a little more difficult. But as long as you stop like you did halfway, a couple cuts on each side, then break the rest and pull, you should eliminate most of the holes and rips from the wing.
Say I'm in a, I don't know,
hopefully,
hotel room, and I'm packing up birds or something. So I would pull this, pull the head through and neck. Or is it best to leave it in?
Just pull it through, just like it was when it was. You could probably pull the wing through too, that you turn, just because.
Okay, this one.
Yeah. So this would, after you fleshed it, just grab it by the primaries.
It's funny what people think. Oh my gosh,
it's ruined.
It's ruined. It looks horrible.
Well, look at it. Now, I love doing.
It's covered in blood. It's yeah, the inside of the wings.
They're like, oh man, people will shoot it and they're like, oh, it had so much blood, and it's you would be shocked at
when it comes out.
As soon as soap hits it.
You wrap it like this, so I can get that into a Ziploc bag, whereas you can fit 3 of these, and it's lighter anyways. 3 of these in a Ziploc bag, whereas you could only fit 1 full bird in a Ziploc bag. So that's definitely
big difference.
yeah, especially if you're talking geese or something too. You spend 15 minutes in a hotel room, skinning it out.
Yeah, and even like now we're at 38. I mean, so even if it's a half an hour, and you'll get down. Of course, we wanted to explain stuff as detailed as possible.
Slow the process down a bit.
Yeah, this should be a good representation of somebody that's. I mean, most people should at least have the basic knowledge of anatomy just from duck hunting, 'cause especially if you breast birds out. You know what I mean? Like, you should have at least a decent grasp of where the wings are at and legs, and kind of, like I said, as far as the head goes, leave that alone. I mean, that's something where nobody should be using natural heads outside of a few certain species or upland birds. But man, that's a whole can of worms.
That's another thing too. If you have a big BB go through and chip off some of the bill, it doesn't matter because you're using artificial anyway. So just because it's got a hole through the bill or something doesn't mean that it's unmountable bird.
That's a good point, because I can't tell you how many times I've had people tell me, oh man, I had this beautiful whatever and its bill was hanging off, and so I didn't mount it.
Oh, like they shot the bill completely off?
Yeah, I mean, they shot it, and they're like, oh man, I didn't even save it because of that. And it's like, then they find out obviously I'm using plastic heads, and I literally throw that away.
Yep.
But yeah, from here you could put it in a bag and then press the air out and
keep it frozen.
And then I guess I would say, if you're planning on long-term storage, some people, especially if you're going to be, once it's skinned out, it is going to freezer burn quicker than when it's whole. But if you're traveling back, and say if you wanted to wet it, so say you just ran it under the sink for a little bit and put it away wet, then that's going to minimize the freezer burn. That's going to buy like 6 months extra. So most of the time, though, you're skinning it and then you're dropping it off, when you're home.
So the moral of the story is, when you're in the field and you're, oh my gosh, I'm trying to protect every little single feather from getting whatever
Yeah.
with newspaper and pantyhose. Well, when you come back and it looks like this, the field care isn't really too critical.
Yeah, it's more of just like not keeping it out too long, where it's the body is in heat, so it's where it's going to start decomposing.
Don't let the dog chew it up.
Because the last video I posted, the fleshing, the dog had freaking incisor bites on both sides where he ripped through this breast, and it just
makes holes, more holes.
Makes holes. But yeah,
that pretty much sums it up.
Yeah. All right, guys. Well, that's skinning a bird. That should be at a good pace. And then any questions, always just ask. And I think that's it. All right. Bye, guys.